Bruchim Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem to get on Daf Vav Amud Beis, starting with Daf Vav Amud Aleph, 6 lines from the bottom. Until now we've been discussing the adjustment of a mavui, either with a lechi or a kara. Now the Gemara tries to discuss what is the option of maybe adjusting a Reshus Harabim. The Gemara has such a havamina. Says the Gemara, bringing the following brisa. Tonu Rabbanon. Keitzad ma'arvin derech Reshus Harabim. The brisa says, what is the way to adjust for the carrying of Reshus Harabim? Oise tzuras haPesach bikan ulechi v'kore mikan. You can make a kara on one side and a tzuras haPesach on the other side, and that will correct the Reshus Harabim, enabling a person to walk and carry the Reshus Harabim. Chananya oimer beishamai oimrim oise delis mikan v'delis mikan ukeshu yoytze v'nichnas noyel. According to Beishamai, Chananya says that it has to have a delis on both sides, and that delis has to be closed. That's how you can adjust the Reshus Harabim. Beis Hillel oimrim oise delis mikan v'lechi v'kar mikan. You can make a delis on one side and a lechi or kara on the other side. Here we're talking again about where you have houses on either side, and the Reshus Harabim is going in between. So we're saying over here that if you have the sides, the ends of the Reshus Harabim, where there is either, according to Beis Hillel, a lechi on one side, and on the other end is a delis, that's going to be sufficient to allow you to carry in the Reshus Harabim. Ask the Gemara, Reshus Harabim mi me'arva. The Gemara questions this. Is indeed possible to then adjust a Reshus Harabim? After all, the Reshus Harabim is considered to be something that midiarais, if a person carries from the Reshus HaYachid into the Reshus Harabim, or vice versa, he's over a malach diarais of hoitzah. Similarly, if he walks dalid amos in the Reshus Harabim, it's a malach diarais of hoitzah. So therefore, can you adjust this carrying this hoitzah in the Reshus Harabim? V'hatani, behold, it states in the brisa, yes sir, alkein. The Gemara brings a brisa, and the brisa began with a halacha previously, that if you have two walls and a roof on top, so Rabbi Yehuda says that's considered to be an adjustment for the Reshus Harabim. Even though you're in the Reshus Harabim and you have two walls on either side, so long as you have those two walls on either side with a roof on top, he says it's going to be permitted to then carry. Omar Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda now adds another halach in this brisa. On top of Vav Amud Beis, Misha hayu lo shnei batim, mishnei tzidei Reshus Harabim. Somebody who has two houses on either side of the Reshus Harabim, there's a Reshus Harabim who's going in between the two houses, and he wants to set up an adjustment to allow him to then carry between the two houses within what's now the Reshus Harabim. So oise lechi mikan v'lechi mikan, oy kara mikan v'kara mikan, v'noise v'noise be'emtza. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he can put either a lechi or a kara on both either side of the house, and then he can go ahead and carry between the two houses, even though that was a Reshus Harabim. He now has adjusted that area to be something that now is something that is no longer the Reshus Harabim. Amrullah, the Chacham say to Rabbi Yehuda, that's not so. Ein ma'arvin Reshus Harabim bekach. You cannot adjust the Reshus Harabim in this manner. So Gemara is medayik. In other words, the Gemara is asking at this point, we see that it's not so. Not like you thought and said in the brisa that we're talking about, that you can go ahead and adjust the Reshus Harabim. The Chacham said you cannot do that. The Gemara says, maybe you'll medayik and say, what the Chacham said to Rabbi Yehuda is you can't ma'arvin a Reshus Harabim mikach in this manner, but in another manner you could. In this manner you can't, by just putting merely a lechi or kara on either side. But if you could put a delis, then that would be a good adjustment. But we see that's not so, because Rabbi Yochanan said, Yerushalayim ilmole dilososeho ninalois balaylo chayav nala mishum reshus harabim. in Yerushalayim, if it wasn't for the fact that the doors on both sides are closed, then one would be chayiv for carrying in the Rishus HaRabim. In other words, the only way it's adjusted for not being a Rishus HaRabim is because here we're talking about from one shar to the other shar is a thoroughfare throughout throughout Yerushalayim as a Rishus HaRabim, and only if you then close the deles from on one side and the deles on the other side does it permit you to carry, because then it's like one big chotzer. Otherwise, you'd be chayiv midiraisa for hoitzah, for walking and carrying within the Rishus HaRabim. So we see over here that it's not a proper adjustment, like Beis Hillel was saying, according to Rav Chananya, that one lechi or kara on one side and one delis on the other side. No, you'd have to close it with two delosos. Omar Ula, and Ula said something similar. Hani avule de mechuza, these gates of mechuza, ilmole delosos saying ni laolois. If it wasn't the fact that the doors were closed, chayav nalem mishum rishus rabim, a person would be chayav for hoitzah rishus rabim. In other words, similar to the case of Yerushalayim. In Mechuza also, they had a public thoroughfare, a Rishus HaRabim, and on either side, they had the losos, and only because those losos were closed was it sufficient to make it so that it was permissible to carry within it. Otherwise, you'd be chayiv hoitzah in a Rishus HaRabim. So again, you see that not like we suggested before, that a Rishus HaRabim could be adjusted, only like Beis Hillel says, with a lechi akara on one side, with a delis on the other side, according to Tanakama, it means either a lechi akara on one side with a lechi akara on the other side. No, that's not going to be permissible. Rav Yehuda hochi kamar. So Rav Yehuda says, you're right. What the Brisa meant was as follows. Keitzad ma'arvin mevu'os hamufuloshin lirishus harabim. The kavanah of the Brisa was, how does one matir the mavui, how does it go ahead and adjust the mavui that are mafulash, that are going into the Rishus HaRabim? Here you have a mavui that on either side, it's an open mavui. It's an open mavui that's a mafulash, whereby on both sides it's open to the Rishus HaRabim. How do you adjust such a mavui to permit one to metaltil inside of the mavui? According to Tanakama, you can make a tzuras haPesach on one side, or a lechi or kara on the other side, and that will adjust the mavui that is mafulash. Itmar, we have another statement. In other words, that was a quotation of the Brisa. The Brisa didn't quote the Shita of Beisham Beis Hillel, but indeed, that's what the Brisa meant when it started talking about making an Eruv, not of the Rishus HaRabim, but rather making an adjustment, an Eruv of the Mavui Mefulash. Itmar, we have the following statement. What about the halacha? Rav Omar Hilchasa Kitanakama. Rav Paskins like the Tanakama, that you need a Tzuras HaPesach on one side and a Lechi or Kara on the other side to enable a person to then carry within the Mavui Mefulash. Ushmul Omar halacha kechananya, and Shmuel says the halacha is like Chananya, the way he explains Beis Hillel, that you would need a lechi or kara on one side, but a deles on the other side. Iboilahu, the Gemara asked the following question: Lechananya aliba de Beis Hillel. Chananya, according to Beis Hillel, that we just said, is a case where there's a mavui mafulash, and you want to adjust the mavui mafulash, then you must put a delis on one side, and on the other side, you must have either a kara or a lechi. Tzarich linol or ein tzarich linol. That delis, does it have to be closed or not? In the Brisa itself, when it stated Beis Shammai's opinion, who required a delis on both sides, Beis Shammai said it has to be closed. Beis Hillel merely said you have to have a delis on one side. Does that delis have to be closed, like Beis Shammai was stating? Or no, it can be left open? So that's the Gemara's question. Toshma, let's bring a proof. The Omar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel. Eino tzorich lino. He said, Befei Shmuel said that you do not have to close the door. V'chein Omar Abnasna Mar Shmuel. Ein tzorich lino. Also, in the name of Shmuel, another statement was made that you do not have to then close the door. Ike da Amrei. There are those that say, Omar Rav Maslim bedidi hava uvda. I had an incident, an occurrence that happened with me. V'Omar li Shmuel ein tzarich linol. And Shmuel said to me that you do not have to close the door. So the answer to the question is that the door that Beis Hillel requires does not have to be closed. Boy, meaning Rav Nanan, a similar question was asked of Rav Anan. Tzarich linoil or ein tzarich linoil? Do you have to close the deles or not? Omar lehu, he answered, Tochazi, come and see. Hani abule de neherdo, those gates, the abuli of neherdo, those gates of neherdo, the timon ad palgayu be'afro, they were sunk halfway with ofar, with clay. So you see over here, they were sunk and the doors were ajar. They were sunk to the point where the doors were left open. So you see again that the doors do not have to be closed. And Shmuel went in and out through those doors and he didn't say anything on Shabbos. So you see that a door does not have to be closed according to Shittas Beis Hillel. Rav Kahana said you have no raya from there because Hanoch migufois havoy, because those were partially closed, and therefore since they are partially closed, they're enough to be considered to be closed, and therefore there's not a proof that doors can be open. Kiyosar Rav Nachman Omar, Rav Nachman came, he said the following: Pinuya la'afrayu. He says, remove the ofar, the clay. Leimo kesov Rav Nachman tzarich lino. Why was he saying to remove the clay? Because he's saying that it needs to be closed, and the clay is preventing it from the doors being closed. So let's say that that's what he requires, that the door be closed. Gemara says, Loi, Kivan de ru'uyois linol, afapisha ein ninolos. So long as they are fitting to be closed, that's sufficient. They don't have to be closed. And therefore, again, he paskins that doors, according to Beis Hillel, do not have to be closed.